Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Private Practice Show. I am so excited. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by Breeah Carey, who's going to be talking about starting early in private practice. As you know, one of the things that I say all the time is that you don't have to wait for decades to start a private practice. When I was first getting started in the private practice world, or really in my career as an SLP, I thought that you had to wait until you had, 20, maybe, 30 years of experience as a clinician to actually start a private practice. But once I learned that you could start a private practice much earlier, I was really excited to do so. And so now we have so many more SLPs and OTs who are starting private practices much earlier in their careers. And I love to see that, right? People are excited about private practice. They're also truthfully not willing to wait for 20, 10, 30 years, whatever, to be able to have the flexibility that they want, to be able to earn the kind of income that they want to be making. And so it is really exciting for me to see so many younger clinicians starting private practices much earlier in their career. I actually started my private practice when I was 26 years old. And at the time, that was completely unheard of, right? Everyone else also thought that people should wait for forever to start their practices. And so I love seeing this trend of people starting earlier in their careers. And Bria is a great example of someone who's doing that. So let me go ahead and if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. And so either she or I can answer them. But I'm so excited. I love having guests on with the Private Practice Show on Instagram Live so that people can learn from more people. All right, here we go. Just coming on now. Love it. And also happy Thursday. The week is almost over, everyone. I hope that everyone has amazing weekend plans, either to do something fun or to just unplug and relax, because that's also really, really important. All right, let's see. What's going on with my Instagram? All right, let's see. Can everyone still hear me and see me? Oh, there we go. Okay, great. Sorry, I think it like glitched there for a second. Let's see. Bria, it's saying that you're unable to join. Can you try one more time? I'm not sure. Every now and then Instagram gets a little wonky. They've been doing so many updates to whether it's Facebook or, Meta in general, right, is doing all of these updates. So for some reason, it's giving Brie a little bit of a trouble joining. If this doesn't work, try to request to join one more time. And then another option is you may have to update the Instagram app. That sometimes works for people. Okay, so while we're waiting for Brie to hopefully figure out how to join the request here, one of the things I'll say, I know we have a whole bunch of people watching right now, is enrollment for the Start Your Private Practice program is open for spring enrollment right now. We have had so many people joining us. We had a bunch of people join during boot camp. Those are mostly our boot campers, and other people have been joining because people want to get set up and started and seeing private clients this summer. So if you are one of those people, then come join us, right? Come join us. Let's get those ducks in a row. Let's get that firm legal foundation. I'll teach you about how to market and everything, and that'll be fantastic. Hey, how's it going? All good. Oh, wait, now I can't hear you though. No worries. All good. No, not yet. Eh, who knows? Maybe take out the earplug, or maybe maybe is it my volume? Let me see. No, say something else. No, I still can't hear you. Can actually people watching, can you in the chat, can you guys hear her? I'm trying to figure out if it's me. Who's watching who can let us know real quick if y'all can hear Bree or not. Let me see. Let me make sure it's not my volume. Okay, no. It's like Zoom. right? Who feels like this happens on Zoom all the time, right? You get real comfortable on Zoom and then all of a sudden it throws you an update and like whatever else. No, still thumbs down. It's all right. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. If you gotta leave and come back, that's okay too. All right, perfect. Okay. So Bree's gonna go back. So while we're watching, you guys have me right now. Who has questions about private practice? Right? While we're hanging out, we can turn this into an ask me anything kind of a thing. I like I said was saying earlier, I love that more and more people are starting private practices earlier in their career. The other thing that I'm super passionate right now is about people like starting private practices in a really accessible way. So for example, starting off as a mobile private practitioner. And so not getting brick and mortar space right off the bat, right? I think a lot of people think that in order to have a private practice, you have to have a physical location. And while you may want to have a physical location at some point, right? One of the things that I say all the time is that you may not have a private practice, or you can have a brick and mortar location one day, but probably not on day one, right? And so for any of you who is worried about like being able to afford a physical location, again, you'll be able to do that once your private practice is underway and you have clients, but maybe not till then. All right, let's see. Can we hear you now? Oh, no, I still can't hear you. I don't know. Who knows? Let's see. I don't know. I know. Who knows? Did you restart your phone maybe? That might help. I don't know. Okay, while we're still trying to figure this out, if you guys have questions about private practice, just drop them in the chat, right? I'm here to answer any questions about private practice. I mentioned earlier that enrollment is open for the Start Your Private Practice program. I can answer any questions about that. Sam, thank you for that tip about disconnecting the AirPods completely. Bree, if you can hear us, that's actually a good tip from Sam. So we'll see if that works. So it's so funny. I was going to test a new microphone tonight, but I didn't get to test it in advance. And I was like, oh, who knows? Maybe, whatever with the sound. So funny that we then have sound problems, but no problem. So what other questions do people have about private practice in general or about the Start Your Private Practice program, which is open for our big spring enrollment through Monday, right? Let me know in the chat. I see, does your course, awesome. I feel like there's a second half of that question. So throw that in there and I'll totally answer that for you. Oh, does it matter what state you're in? No, that's a really great question. So we have people in all 50 states as well as people abroad too. We have, as of today, we have 3,100 people in the Start Your Private Practice program, right? That's a lot of people. And those people are in lots of different states, right? And so as soon as you join, what I highly recommend is that you search the name of your state. Carolyn, what state are you in? I would love to know. And then Cassandra, yes, we cover teletherapy. Oh, I think I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we did it. Persistence.
Okay.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So thank you for being so persistent, Bria. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So what I would love to do, because I know you on Instagram, like we've DM'd. I feel like we like each other's posts all the time. But a lot of people, and including me, to be honest, don't necessarily know the story of how you got started in private practice. So could you share with our listeners a little bit about kind of how you got started, like in the profession, and then at what point did you start thinking about private practice?
So I always knew that I wanted to be in like a helping profession. I always wanted to be a third grade teacher. So I'm like very specific. So I'm kind of close to that in a way. But I took the very traditional route. Sorry, this vacuuming. Took the very traditional route in going to undergrad, going to grad school, and I've always been very focused. However, in grad school, I don't think I even had the mindset for being my own boss or being a business owner at that time. I was only in my early 20s. So it wasn't until after I graduated and then started to see like all of the wonderful things that other people were doing. I was like, that's very inspiring. Even seeing some clinicians who have taken your course, how they have a lot of flexibility and everyone just seems a lot happier and a lot freer. Um, I just feel like there's a lot of negativity in the field with people who feel like they're stuck, especially people who are in the schools. And I always say I'm a school based SLP at heart. So I kind of wanted to change the narrative on that. And it's worked out so far.
Yeah, I love that. So something interesting that's different from you and I is when I first got started in private practice. So can I ask how old you are?
I'm 26.
Amazing. Okay. So when I was 26 and I started my private practice, there was like no role models, right? Who were my age, right? There was like a handful of role models who were earlier, right? But they were literally like in their 50s. They were like double my age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have like, not to make me sound like a total dinosaur, but like we didn't have Instagram back then. Like there wasn't an option to see what other people were doing who weren't really in your local area, right? And so one of the things that I think is so cool is now, the younger generation does have role models. They're able to see people on Instagram and see people on TikTok and, Facebook or wherever, and be able to see like, wait a minute, there are other options outside of the schools, right? So you looked around and you noticed that other people were kind of like in private practice and you're like, wait a minute, that sounds really cool. And so what happened next?
So after that, I started to get all my ducks in a row, like you like to say. So I got my LLC in order, created my logo, went to the whole like branding process, website, and then really started to get into the research of, how to make it more lucrative. And like, how can I diversify what I'm doing? So whether that be school contracts, or working directly in the homes with families, how to start accepting insurance. Like it's a very big process. Even though it is freeing, it does take a lot of um, like behind the scenes and upfront work that you have to do in order for it to be successful and have a long life in this field. So yeah, that's kind of how I got there.
I love that. I love that. And so were you at your like school job and then maybe like at night or something trying to like figure out this whole private practice thing?
Yeah, I was at my school job. I think I've always taken a non-traditional route. I've never been one to sign on directly with the district. I've always been a contractor. So from the time I graduated from school, I've always been, whether it was first I started working for a big company as a contractor, then I started working for like a one-woman show as a subcontractor, and then I started working for myself as a contractor. So I've kind of always been in that lifestyle and used that as a guide for how I wanted things to flow.
Yeah. But I also just love like that entrepreneurial spirit, right? Like if you hadn't necessarily thought about like being a business owner, like when you were an undergrad and whatnot, like then this is pretty amazing and awesome that you were able to be like, you know what, I do want to take a non-traditional path. I don't want to be like a traditional employee and you basically figured out how to kind of start to cut out the middleman from the very beginning, which I also think is really cool, and it's a little bit like disruptive, right? Like in a good way,
Yeah,
right? It's like, I'm gonna like take like, I don't want to take the cookie cutter path, like I want to take my path.
right.
So did you, other than seeing some role models on Instagram and whatnot, did you just like have the confidence to do this kind of yourself, or did you have other people who were like, you know um showing you the way or supporting you, or what?
Yeah. So I think again, Instagram played a big part. I remember like the first day I joined Instagram, and Marsha, I don't know if she's here, but Marsha Church, who you know very well, has been one of the people supporting me, and even referred me to Elise, who I believe is on
Mhm.
your team as well. So it's just been like that whole network of people, who you know very well, who are very, very supportive and getting people to get started. Again, my family too, as well. Everyone was kind of like pushing me in that direction. I really think I'm a treatment therapist at heart. So I feel like that's where I want a lot of my focus to be. That's where I want to spend my energy. So I feel like if I'm organized and just very good about having all of my ducks in a row, then I can really focus on my passion.
Yeah. Which what is your passion, right? That's something I always like to ask people is like, who are your favorite populations, or who do you like to serve through your practice?
I love the little ones. They're just, I don't know, they're very loving, they're free spirited, and uh, like you can just see when things click for them. It's just very easy to tell. So I feel like that's where I like to spend majority of my time. Like I typically work with kids as young as 1 years old, and my oldest go up to 14. And a lot of multilingual language learners, especially in the area I'm in New Jersey. So whether that's in the schools or with families at home, I just really love to encourage them to speak their home languages and things like that.
Well, it's really important too. I think that, you're highlighting a good point, is that a lot of people also go into private practice in order to serve, communities or populations that they care a lot about, especially if they feel like that group of people, whomever they are, aren't getting enough of the right kind of services in like traditional settings. So would you say that that's also like part of your mission?
I would definitely say that too, especially with some of the cultural populations that I work with. I hear from families, I don't want to get this diagnosis, or I was kind of scared that my child's going to have this label, even if their child's 1 or 2. And families don't always realize it's better to get the diagnosis earlier rather than later, even if there is a stigma. And us as professionals, we're trying to fight against that stigma. So kind of letting them know that we're both in the battle. I'm trying to get people to understand that there's nothing wrong with your child. We're here to support them, and trying to get the families to trust us in that process.
Yeah. Totally. So it sounds like you like working with like EI ages, right? And then obviously some older kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right as of right now, where are the majority of like your referrals coming from, or like how are people finding you as a private practitioner?
I think it's kind of random in a way. I serve like 4 or 5 different counties in New Jersey, so people are finding me from all over. But I would say a lot of it is from insurance. I
Mhm.
only accept one insurance at this point because I really wanted to get comfortable and know what I was doing before I just started putting applications in everywhere. So a lot of my clients are from insurance.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that. There's two different schools of thought about what to do about that, right? So, and none of them is, right or wrong, right? It just kind of has to do with your tolerance. But what I teach is to do what you do, right? To pick one insurance company at a time. And the reason why I think that's a good idea is because then you're learning one thing at a time, right? And then you get really good at that thing. And then if you need to add more insurance companies, then same thing, you add another one, right? Sometimes when people are first starting their practices, they are so nervous about getting clients that they have kind of like a scatter like approach or whatever of signing up for all of them.
Mhm.
And then what happens is sometimes you get accepted by all of them, and then you have to learn how to bill and learn how to do everything. And then you start getting too many
Right.
referrals, right? Which when you're first getting started seems impossible to even think about, but like it can happen kind of quickly. And if you're not prepared for the volume, that can be like overwhelming in a different way. So for anyone who's listening to this, again, you do you, right? It's your business. But I am of the mindset of one insurance company at a time, get comfortable with it, and then if you need to add more payer sources, add more payer sources later.
Exactly. I would agree. There's definitely like an insecurity some of us feel at the beginning, like, what if I'm not going to be successful in this? But from what I've seen, even in your Facebook group, everybody has been successful. And it doesn't matter if it takes you 1 week to get your whole practice full, or 1 month, or 1 year. Everything's going to happen how it's supposed to happen.
Yeah. And because we know there's such tremendous
Mhm.
need, right? Like there are so many people, and I'm sure people, watching and listening know that there are people in your community, again, wherever you live, who are going without services or who are stuck on wait lists, right? And so if you have the inclination to start a practice, like there are people out there who are like, whether it's a hospital or a clinic or whatever, like not getting the services that they need, or even early intervention, right? My wife actually is an early intervention physical therapist
Mhm.
in Massachusetts, and like they're not able to see the kids at the frequency that these kids really need services. So she tells people all the time, like, I can see your child, twice a month or whatever, but go find a private practice because like that's not enough, right? And so a lot of people are kind of like, but who's going to hire me? And I'm like, lots of people. right?
Exactly. I would agree. Hmm.
Yeah, I love it. So what does your private practice kind of like air quotes look like these days in terms of like how many clients are you seeing them or like kind of what's your schedule like, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so again, it is a mixed practice. So through my private practice, I take on school contracts. Um, so I'm currently at two schools. I'm the founding SLP at both of them, surprisingly, yes, which is exciting. And then my private clients. So I can accept anywhere up to 10 private clients. That's kind of what my schedule allows, but also to allow for me to have time to write eval reports and contact insurance, which can be a task, and different things like that. And then even with accepting insurance, you only do the allotted amount of time for each session, the billable time. But again, because I really love connecting with the kids and their families, I'll send an email every now and then saying, here are some additional activities that you guys can do at home, or check in, or let's have a little meeting to discuss your child's progress. So I like to be able to have free time so that I can provide those services.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that you said that you were serving, was it four
Mm-hmm.
counties in New Jersey? Okay. So that also sounds like some driving is happening,
Yes.
right? So that's another thing, right? Where like you have, and I just like when people do the math and figure out what their
Mm-hmm.
capacity is, right? To say, listen, I can do 10 clients, but I also need time for some paperwork, time for some marketing, time to make sure I get paid for the services that I'm doing, right? And then there's the driving part. But the thing that I like about this, for you and for everyone who chooses private practice is like you get to make that decision,
Exactly.
right? In pretty much every state, like doesn't like there's some places that have caseload caps,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think that the majority of states don't. So to be able to like set your own hours in your own schedule and say, this is what full means to me is like revolutionary compared to like what most people are dealing with in schools and hospitals. Would you agree with that?
I would definitely agree. Like right now, one school contract is 2 days a week, and another is for an hour a week. So that leaves time for private clients. So another morning, I go to the daycares, go to the family homes, and I don't feel super, super overwhelmed, especially with having to drive in all that New Jersey traffic. But what I did too, looking at your resources, how you let people know this is how much you can make if work X amount of hours and charge this rate. So, I have been having a lot of conversations with other clinicians my age in New Jersey, some of my friends, about, what you can do to sustain your private practice, what you can do to save up to be able to transition out of a traditional school job, but still work in the schools if you really love it. And a lot of them are also starting private practices on the side. So, I think we're all finally getting on the same page, which I love.
Yeah, I totally. Because, and ASHA unfortunately doesn't take good like demographic data on
Mm-hmm.
this. Like I wish they would, right? They do surveys all the time, like the school survey and there's like a hospital survey.
Mm-hmm.
And like there used to be a private practice survey, but like I don't know what happened to it. But nonetheless, like so I don't have good trend data to say like specifically that the amount of people in private practice is increasing like in a really scientific way supported by ASHA. But what I will say is that, our private practice communities have grown, whether it's my free communities, whether it's paid communities, like people are so interested in this and, for lots of reasons. But actually, I'm going to ask you, why do you think specifically too that the younger generation is so interested in private practice that like people who were, previous generations weren't necessarily?
Mm-hmm. I think it's similar to the overall US trend of younger people wanting to do their own thing. How we want to come in when we want to come in, or if we want to work from home, or if we want to take a trip the next day, that type of thing. So I think that's why now we're really getting into the nitty gritty of getting everything in order so that we can start private practice, and it really just focus on what we think is important, which is the kids and the adults if you work with adults.
Yeah, Totally. I just also think that the younger generation like isn't willing to put up with like the BS that other people were, right? People want that flexibility. So anyone who's followed me for any length of time knows that I talk about Jenna's favorite F words, right? Which, family friendly here, but it's, freedom, flexibility, fulfillment, and finances. Of those F words, I'll say them one more time: freedom, flexibility, fulfillment, and finances. What would you say are your favorite F words? And people in the chat, you can drop yours too.
I would definitely say the freedom. The freedom. Um, and even going back to what you said about the difference between the generations, my mom, she was a teacher in the same district. She started there as a student teacher and she retired there over 20 years in that same school system. So she got the pension and all that kind of stuff. And even now, as a contractor, I wouldn't get that. I would have to work the full 5 days a week. But she's telling me, Bria, no, you need to be on your own schedule. Don't do what we did. Do what you need to do. Even if you have to pay your own health insurance on the side, there's no exchange for being able to choose what you want to do and when you want to go and where you want to go.
Yeah, totally. And I obviously don't know your mom or, financial circumstances or whatever, but I'm of the mindset to like, if you have an opportunity to earn more money now, earn more money now and use it in a different way versus kind of waiting to earn more at the end of your career, right? Because if you can earn more now and like say have your own, like, people don't always know this, but like you can start your own 401k, right? You can have your own like investment accounts and retirement accounts that often perform better than ones associated with jobs, right? So if you can earn more money now and put more aside now, you're going to be in a significantly better position than waiting in the same job for 20 or 30 years for a pension, which, while that's great, like pensions are kind of going away, first of all.
Exactly.
And second of all, like, again, if you can earn more money now, I don't know why you wouldn't do that, right?
And I don't know if it's like this in Massachusetts too, but they also put you on a teacher scale. So there are all these things that you have to kind of compare, and people don't really know the difference between W-2 versus a 1099, and all this kind of stuff. That seems very overwhelming. But again, when you do your research and you take the appropriate courses and you talk to the appropriate people, then you'll really have a good grasp of what you should do.
Yeah, totally. And private practice isn't for everyone, right? Like I say that, or the way that I teach in my programs, anyone can learn how to do it, right? Like I really break this down step by step. And so if you can follow simple instructions, anyone can start a private practice. However, not everyone is up for it, right? There's a lot of people who really don't want that risk, right? They want, a regular paycheck all the time and whatnot, and that's totally fine, right? But for people who do want to, really create their own schedule and figure out, how much money do I want to make, and be able to say, like, I want to treat these populations and put your own caseload cap, right? Just like you've been able to do. It's an awesome way to do things. And this is why I truly believe that private practice is the way. And so many people are like kind of starting to come around to this. And I'm just so excited. I love to see it. Love it. So where are you going to go from here? Like, what are kind of, next steps, right? You're not too far into your private practice. What do you see for yourself in the next like 5 to 10 years?
That's tough. Again, like you said, it's not easy. Not everyone has the mindset to do it. We all want to talk about growth, but growth looks different for everybody.
Yes.
So I was talking to my friend about this the other day. Does growth look like me making $1 million? Or does growth look like me being able to set aside enough money to go on vacation all the time or start a family? I feel like within the next couple of years, that's what I would be, hoping to do, is start a family. Again, when we talk about things like maternity leave and just not having to have that stress in my life. So I'm thinking about it very functionally. But then also hiring more contractors who are very self-sufficient. So whereas, I take more of a behind the scenes type of role, and, put out any little fires that there may be, but just really build a team that's very passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah, totally. And I love that you mentioned things like maternity leave, right? That's another thing that people, it kind of keeps some people from private practice, right? Because they say like, but what about maternity leave, right? And I know from most people's experience in most, schools and whatnot, they don't get a great maternity leave, right? You get maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, right? And it's often not paid, right? And so the alternative is if you have a practice, like you can hire, employees or contractors to cover that leave for you so that you do have income coming in and you have your patients or clients are still being seen, right? Your practice is still afloat, but you can take that time off for your maternity leave. And then when you're ready to come back, if you want to, you just keep those people in place. And then you see, a couple more clients, but by then you may want a totally different schedule.
Right.
Now that you have kids, and you have the flexibility to do that when you're your own boss, that you don't necessarily if you're working for someone else.
Right. And you kind of have that lived experience already with your little ones and your wife, so you definitely understand what that's like. So
Yeah.
thank you for making us all feel very peaceful about that.
You're welcome. And you used a really important word earlier, which is mindset, right? And that some people don't necessarily have the mindset for this, right? And again, that's totally okay. But I welcome people to realize that your mindset can change, right? Like, I think most people, when we start in this profession, we have an identity of like, I'm a school SLP or I'm a hospital SLP or whatever. And you get that kind of an identity. And then when you hear Jen on Instagram or wherever talking about private practice, they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm not a business person, right?
Yeah.
But like you can be a business person and an SLP, like and a helping people person. And we need more people who own businesses who also are good people and care deeply about, the clients that we serve. Like we need more heart-led businesses. And so, thank you for being a great example of that, right? I have no doubt that the kids in New Jersey who are on your caseload and whatnot, like they need you, right? They may not have other options. And so like how great that you came into their life and they came into your life and like everybody wins in this scenario.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely feel very fulfilled in this field. So thank you for being one of the change makers and a big supporter.
Thank you. You're so welcome. I love what I do, right? Just like you love what you do and you love the little ones, right? You just lit up when you said how much you love the little ones, right? I love the SLPs and OTs, right? This my ideal population are the people who we're talking to right now. And actually, someone in the chat just asked a really good question, which is what was your biggest fear before starting out?
I don't know if I even had a fear going into it. That's a good question. Maybe that it would just be a lot of work and I would have to stay up late. But again, if you do everything and you put in all of the hard work, things start to become more seamless over time.
And you can set your own boundaries, right? Like I think that's one of the things that's really cool too. Like, when you start something new, it is a lot of work. Like think about your grad school, right? Like grad school was a lot of work. It was hard. It was hard for me anyway, right? And it was a lot of work, but I did the work and I got through it and that was great, right? Same with private practice, right? Starting a private practice is work, right? You have to do it, right? Even if you join my programs and I give you the step by step, I can't do it for you, right? You still have to do the work, right? I make it as easy as possible, but you still have to do it, right? Same with marketing, right? You still, if you're going to see clients, like people have to find out about you. You do have to make connections at daycares, or you have to talk to, people in your community who are looking for services, but you don't have to, like, it shouldn't keep you up at night, right? Like it should be the kind of thing that you put a thing in your schedule, just like most people don't have like lunch breaks, right? When you have your own business, like you can put in a lunch break for yourself. You can put in time for marketing, right? Because you're the boss.
Well, and also not feeling guilty about that too.
Talk
And again,
Talk about that a little bit more.
just not feeling guilty about putting yourself first in that
Mm-hmm.
situation, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
nobody else is going to put you first. I'm sure you've heard from a lot of clinicians how, you know, they stress themselves out so much that they got sick, or, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
school did this to them, or their employer did X, Y, and Z to them. And so when you are in control of that ship, you're responsible for everything that's happening around you.
Yes, totally. And anecdotally, I see and hear that all the time. People, say, I was having mental health issues, or I was having physical issues, or I've even had people tell me that they were having like infertility issues because of stress.
Stress.
And then they start a practice, and I've had people again say, I don't have the anxiety that I used to. I don't have the depression that I used to. I've had at least 4 people tell me that they got pregnant once they started private practice because they didn't have that stress anymore, right? Like I can't promise that to anyone who's listening or watching, right? But I can say
Yeah.
anecdotally that when you have less stress in your life, it's helpful. And if this is a way that you can have less stress but still make more money, right?
Mhm.
But be able to work less, again, this is why I think this is the best thing that we can do for ourselves, also our families,
Mhm.
and this profession as a whole.
Mhm.
I love it. I'm here for it. So you're awesome. And I'm sure that people who are listening are like, I need to know more about this woman. Where can people find out about you?
So I am on Instagram as at BeautyBreeSLP.
Love
And
it.
yep. So that's kind of like the main place. Again, Instagram is just an amazing place to connect with people. Sometimes you'll see me pop into your private practice group
Mm-hmm.
and ask a question. Or make little comments. But yeah, that's the main place that I like to connect is on Instagram.
I love it. So if you have been watching slash listening and you want to connect, like please send her a DM. That would be awesome. Say you heard it on the show or whatever. But again, thank you so much for being an amazing example of someone who started their private practice earlier in their career and is really creating something that you really love and that works really well for you and is contributing to less stress and all that kind of other stuff. Thank you for being a role model for your peers.
Thank you so much, Jenna.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, thank you everyone for watching and listening. And we'll be back next week for another episode of the Private Practice Show. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.